Okay, so we're trying to find coordinates of point A. Coordinates of point A, I'm going to try pi over 6 first. Okay, so if I plug in pi over 6, I get r equals -3 times the sine of 4 pi over 6. And I get -3 times the sine of 2 pi over 3, which is radical 3 over 2, which means I get -3 radical 3 over 2. So that's going to put me over here. Alright, so then I have to try, instead of pi over 6, I want to try 7 pi over 6. And when I plug in 7 pi over 6, I get -3 times the sine of 4 times 7 pi over 6, which is 2 goes into 4 twice, 2 goes into 6 3 times, so we get -3 times the sine of 14 pi over 3. Now 14 pi over 3, I know 6 pi over 3 is right there, 12 pi over 3 is right there, so 14 pi over 3 is up there in the second quadrant. So that means that the sine is positive in the second quadrant. It's radical 3 over 2. So the sine of 14 pi over 3 is the same as the sine of 2 pi over 3. So we get -3 radical 3 over 2, which when I plug in 7 pi over 6, that means I'm going to get, and I get a negative number, that puts me back over here, so that those would be the coordinates then of point A. It would be -3 radical 3 over 2, comma 7 pi over 6. That's just those are just the coordinates for point A. Now the coordinates for point B, I'm going to either plug in 5 pi over 3 or 2 pi over 3. So let's try 2 pi over 3 first, and I need more room here. So for number 2, we have -3 times the sine of 4 theta, and if theta equals, that's r equals, if theta equals 2 pi over 3, then I plug in a 2 pi over 3 there, and I'm going to get -3 times the sine of 8 pi over 3. Now again, 6 pi over 3 is right there, and 6 pi over 3, 8 pi over 3 is in the second quadrant, and I know that sine is positive in the second quadrant, so we have -3 radical 3 over 2, comma, what did I say, 2 pi over 3? So I plugged in 2 pi over 3, yeah. So when theta is 2 pi over 3, so okay, good, so I have my coordinates for point B, which would be -3 radical 3 over 2, comma 2 pi over 3, because 2 pi over 3 is over here. I go away from that, and I'm over here at point B. So then point C, I have to figure out the third time that the graph hits the pole. So we set r equal to 0. So we take -3 sine 4 theta equals 0, which when we divide both sides by -3, we get sine of 4 theta equals 0, and we know that the sine is 0 when whatever you're taking the sine of, or whatever you're taking the sine of, is equal to 0, pi, 2 pi, and so forth. That's the third time. But when we divide everything by 4, we get theta equals 0 over 4, pi over 4, 2 pi over 4, which is pi over 2. So there's the angle. So when the graph hits the pole for the third time, the angle is pi over 2.